Welcome everyone to another Wednesday night with your host, Coach Menachem Bernfeld. So thank you very much for all the feedback that you've sent in. And the last two sessions were about feeling uncomfortable and getting out of your comfort zone, which is beautiful to see how people are trying things out, seeing the results with the questions that you sent in, which we'll try to clarify a little bit tonight. And let's continue on our journey. So I'm very excited because tonight I'm gonna teach a framework which is called Stop, Breathe, and Observe. This is a framework which is needed. It's basically 3 steps of becoming the observer of your own life so that you can be in control instead of everything else around you, instead of reacting to what's going on in our life, and sometimes things that are going on inside of us that are triggers. But by doing these 3 steps, to be able to stop, breathe, and observe, that's the beginning of any growth, any change that a person wants. We always have to start with these steps, and that's what we're going to be discussing tonight. And I do want to mention that my course is available. The course is Self-Awareness for Beginners, which has we walk through the ideas together, being able to become aware of our thoughts, to be able to stop, to validate, to understand the logic versus emotions, understand what the emotions are and what you can do about them, with them, why is the emotions needed, how to be vulnerable to yourself. And then there are some tools and techniques. There is a 3-minute relaxation technique. There's the 100 positive thoughts and affirmations. And again, you don't have to do all 100. You choose those that work for you. But I do over there that the 100 affirmations that you can listen to, which works wonders. And sometimes you don't have to consciously listen to it. You just put it into your ears and you let it go over and over, and it goes in slowly. And then there's the short self-awareness meditation, where you get to relax and slowly become a little bit aware of what's going on. So I'll send it out in the emails, and I'll put it in the chat. I guess I'll send it in the emails. And for those who are watching the recording, you can find the link on the bottom. So what we're going to be doing tonight is the framework of stop, breathe, and observe. So I remember when I started my journey many years ago, Baruch Hashem, I had a beautiful life. Everything was working, He went to yeshiva, get married, went to Eretz Yisrael, and I attended the webinar, the class that Yom Tov Glazer gives, The Possible You. And this is a shout out for Rabbi Glazer. It's a 20-hour course, sitting there and learning new ideas, new things, a lot of meditation and slowing down. And while I was sitting there, my feedback basically was, it's amazing, it's beautiful for those people that need it. But I didn't feel that I needed to do this work. And little did I know, but I was just sitting there and taking it in, but I didn't think I needed, the inner work and the inner trial and all of that. I believe that it's important for those who need it, those who struggle, but I didn't really have any struggles. Interesting. And that's when I became aware of how important it is to stop and slow down. Because it was a few months later, I remember talking to Rabbi Glazer, and I told him, I don't know if it was a year later, I told him that I believe that everything that I'm learning, it all comes from that beginning, that when I sat in his class and learned how to stop and slow down, whether it's meditation, and just become aware of what's going on. So that's the step number one, to be able to stop when you're on this rat race. And even though it can be being busy doing the right thing. Again, I was learning in Kollel, doing the right thing, taking care of the family. From the outside, it was beautiful, but I was keeping being busy, doing the right thing, and not thinking much. And that was the first time that I really stopped and became aware. Now, when I mentioned to people that the first step is to stop, it doesn't mean sitting on the couch, because there are many people that sit at home for many hours, and they would tell me, what should I stop? I don't really do much. But it really has to be a conscious decision. And that's why I say you have to start with small steps. Start with even 2 or 3 minutes a day, where you sit down, where there's no phone, there is no computer, and there are no people around, no books, no sefarim. There's nothing there. And you're saying, I'm going to be sitting here for 2 or 3 minutes, just to sit, to stop, and just be, just to stay there. And you have to do that conscious decision. Now, you should start small, because it could be hard. Some people sometimes think it's easy, and that's why they don't do it. But when you start on this journey and you do sit down for a few minutes, it could be a challenge. And like we discussed many times, things can come up, and it could be negative things. So start with small steps. And what's very important is to put it into your routine. Try to find a time in your day where you know that's 2 or 3 minutes that you're not needed. And by doing it every day, excuse me, by doing it every day, you know that you're doing it. What happens is you're not used to it, and it's a good idea, logically. You might do it once or twice, but then you don't do it again. Try to put it in a routine, and this is the most important step for any awareness, any change, to be able to stop what we're doing, to be able to start becoming aware. Now, many people, they feel it's too hard, they don't have time, they're very busy. And what happens is sometimes they're forced. For example, if somebody loses a job, it hits them like a ton of bricks, but they just have to stop and look what's going on. What can I do? They become aware of themselves. Or it can be a medical illness. They're used to doing one thing, and now they have to take care of somebody or themselves. Things change, and that's when they become aware, and that's when somebody's forced to stop. But let's not wait for these things, and hopefully things are good. You have a job, you have your routine. Let's put it into our routine so that we can start the growth and becoming aware of what we really want and what's controlling us, what's controlling our life. So that's the first thing, to be able to stop. What do I do when I'm sitting there? The second thing is to breathe. Why is it so important to breathe? Well, there's 2 reasons. Number one, you can focus on your breath. That makes it easier for you, because sometimes your mind can be racing and it's hard to sit there. So if you focus on the air going in and out in your stomach, in and out, for 2-3 minutes, so at least you can calm down and focus on your breath. And then what happens, you become aware of things that come up. And that's where the emotions come up, positive and negative. Those are things that usually push us, keeps us going, not letting us stop. The only way you're going to be able to stop is if you learn to sit and just breathe. if something negative comes up, you become aware of it, and you just breathe in and out, like we've done many, we've practiced a few times. Just, it can be regular breathing, deep breathing. Just sit there and focus on your breath, and you'll become aware of these thoughts. So that's the step number 2, to be able to breathe. And I do want to mention the question that you sent in, that those of you sent in. So here's an interesting question about the uncomfortable thoughts when they come up. What am I supposed to do with it? So number 1 is just say to yourself, it's just a thought, and ignore it, or listen to what it's saying, or rationalize against it. So if I can ask the audience, for those of you who were here in the past, what are you supposed to do when those thoughts come up, negative thoughts? If you can put them in the chat, let me know. What do you do when you sit for 3 or a few minutes, just being aware, and those negative thoughts come up? Very good. So to rationalize with those thoughts is not a good idea. Don't get into the discussion. Don't start discussing with it, why do you think this way? Like we discussed, don't be judgmental. Just let it come up and listen. And that's one of the things I discuss in the course, effective listening. Like we discussed, how do you listen to a child when they share these things? You're there and you listen, even though you're the adult and you have a good idea for the child. Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? But don't get into any discussions, just listen. And to ignore them is also not a good idea, because that's what we've done till now. So what we're doing is we're embracing it. We let them in, let the feelings come up, become aware of where in your body you feel it. It could be very uncomfortable. You can feel it in your chest, in your stomach, your arms, your cheeks. Wherever that feeling comes up, you listen to it. You can even say, tell me more. It's like listening to your child. Wow, what else do you feel? What else do you think? And it's amazing. Just let it come up and you'll sit there. Again, for a beginner, don't do it for too long. Don't sit there for too long. Become aware, write it down, come back tomorrow. And then it can come up again, bring it up again. Another good question, what if things from your childhood comes up? Right? So you might become aware of somebody was bullied when they were a kid, and the only way they were able to continue in life is if they did everything perfect. They performed, they did everything right, they were good. So it does look good from the outside, it looks beautiful, but there's a lot of stress and a lot of negative beliefs about yourself based on that the message that you picked up when you were young. So what do you do when that comes up? So it could be hard just to become aware of it. How many years am I living this way? And when that comes up, just be compassionate to yourself. Like, oh, it must be very hard. And now becoming aware of it, it's like, wow. So for some people, they would tell themselves, I managed till now. And just like I managed till now, I'll manage, I'm fine. And you could tell yourself that, because sometimes it's too hard to tell yourself, I need to change. So the first step is just to become aware. And yes, you can tell yourself, I'm fine. Even if I'm aware that I was pleasing everybody, I am still fine. And then I think automatically you'll see some change. You'll be a little bit more relaxed, certain things that you do. It won't bother you what other people say, not as much as it used to be. So it's not like I'm here to change. I became aware of, because I was bullied and I'm doing everything perfect. Now I'm going to stop. We don't change. It doesn't happen that way. Things happen gradually. Things happen slowly. It takes time. So becoming aware to stop and then to breathe, not to run away from those emotions. Let them come up. And what happens, the third step is to observe. You can write down, it makes it easier, journal what comes up, those feelings. You listen to what comes up. And very important to have compassion, to have that piece of being your best friend, as if a friend comes to you and shares with you. You wouldn't tell them they're doing everything wrong, even though you might think it, but you'll tell them, wow, it's hard. Just listening to them. So to be able to accept with compassion, accept yourself wherever you are, no matter what comes up, and being able to say, I am okay. So these are the 3 steps, which this is basically what we do when people come to me for coaching, again, not for therapy. And I would say it again for those people who have had real trauma when they were young. To do this work by themselves is very hard. There's a reason why they don't want to sit and just become aware of themselves. There's a good reason for that. And to do it by themselves, it's very hard. You have to find somebody to do it. But for those who feel they just want to grow, they want more in life. And yes, there's always things that come up from when you were young. So those I coach, and this is the first thing we discuss. First, where in your life do you want to change? Is it relationships? Is it at work? Is it with which area in your life do you want results, or something that's bothering you? Obviously, you made that phone call, reached out to me for a reason. So what is it? So we become aware. And then I ask them to do these, give them the homework. Sometimes we can do it together. And then I tell them for the next week till we meet again. It's basically becoming aware to be able to stop, learn to breathe, and observe. And the feedback that I get is amazing. There's some people that say it's simple, it's easy. I just had it now. Somebody mentioned so what exactly do you want? And after like a few times, he said, it's getting hard. Why is it so hard to sit with the negative emotions? I said, this is it. This is what we're looking for. Yes, we do want the negative emotions to come up because that's something that we're running away from, and that could be controlling our life, making decisions for us, even though we think we made the decision, but really it's based on that thing that we're scared. We don't want to go in certain areas. We don't want to go out of our comfort zone. We want to stay where we are, talk to the people we talk to, and no change, because change is hard. There's a person that was learning for many years, and he mentioned to me when he heard these ideas, it just changed his life. To be able to slow down, to become aware, to be okay with yourself, to see what's driving me, to learn these techniques, how to breathe, to stay there. So it's amazing how this works. And eventually, obviously this is only the beginning. Eventually we learn how to bring in much more positives, to be able to become aware. We don't want to see only the negatives. We have to become aware of the positives. And then to take those steps that we learned last week. Okay, so now that I'm in control and I know what I want to do, and I understand my fears, now I can take it to the next level of where do I want to taste some out of my comfort zone. I want to walk out slowly. Let me see what I can try, what I can do, even though it's uncomfortable. But it's a journey, and this is the beginning. So that's it for tonight. And if you want to hear more and walk through this beginning 3 steps, that's the self-awareness course that I'll put the link in the bottom. But basically, we walk through these ideas to be able to put in some compassion, effective listening, doing those techniques. And what's really important is to be able is to actually do it. Because many of us like to hear new ideas. We want to find the answer. So we go around to webinars and shiurim, and we listen to new ideas. While we're sitting there, it could be very motivating. We're like, wow. But then a day or two later, we're still back into that same something. We're not sure what it is that we're looking for. So once in a while, you have to close all the outside information. You have enough information. Close your eyes, you close your ears, and you sit and you breathe. And then you go inside of yourself. Where am I? What's really bothering me? What do I think about myself? What are my beliefs? Just becoming aware, and that's when eventually change can be done by doing this work. Because logic itself, we've been doing that for many years. What we need to do is go from the head into the body. That's the emotions. And that's what happens when we breathe. We stop, start breathing, start feeling it in your body, letting those thoughts come up, the ideas, those beliefs about yourself, and you don't run away from it. You just breathe and observe. And then when you go out in the world, you start observing the people around you, the places you go. When I go here, this is how I feel. When I speak to that person, this is how I feel. And then you become aware of why you want to go in certain places, why you don't want to go with the people, the places. That's your comfort zone. What's the fear of going out, doing something new, trying something out, making that phone call? What's the fear? We become aware of that. And eventually, we start living more relaxed, okay with ourselves. And that's it. That's when the change happens. So that's it for tonight. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat. And just to remember the framework that we learned tonight, it's easy to remember, not so easy to do, but it's to stop, breathe, and observe. Just to be able to stop, breathe, and observe. See where you get stuck. Some people can get stuck. Some people have a hard time stopping. Some have a hard time breathing when the negatives come up. And then to observe, see what it is, become aware. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next week. Okay, so here I do sessions on Zoom for those who are asking. You can send me an email at coachmenachem@gmail.com. So we can do coaching all around the world now that we are on Zoom. The feedback, if you're in the middle of doing the technique of the framework, stop, breathe, and observe, and you feel stuck, you have any questions, send them in to coachmenachem@gmail.com. We'll try to bring them in, or maybe I'll get a chance to answer them. And for the recordings of tonight is available at menachembernfeld.com, the top left. We have almost all the recordings over there. So thank you very much. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat.